Let's imagine what would happen if you took Black Star from Soul Eater and gave him a Nin ability from Hunter x Hunter. What would that Hatsu look like? How would it manifest? How would Black Star create it? Let's talk about it. Now, this is a bit of a looser video. I don't want to make two constraints and be like, all right, these are all the conditions that what I normally do, because I want to hear y'all's opinions. How could you make this ability I'm about to talk about better? What conditions would you add to further amplify the efficacy of the ability? And maybe what other like sub Hatsu, if you have any ideas. I'm going to keep it very simple, sweet, short. So I want to hear your opinions on this Hatsu. Okay, so also like the video if you like the video, subscribe if you want to continue to see my content, and drop down in the comments what type of videos you want to see. It doesn't have to be like these power system crossover. It could be like a review of an anime, or you could say nix this and that, or talk about this. Just say anything, man. If you got a good idea, I'm like, oh yeah, shit, like bet I'll do that. So feel free to, give your opinion on what you think I should do if you want to see me do it personally. All right, first we're talking about the Hatsu. What's the affinity? What's Black Star's affinity gonna be? If we base it off his personality, he'd probably be an enhancer, maybe transmuter, possibly an emitter, but I'm gonna base it off his already existing skill set and what his abilities are. So I'm going to make him a conjurer, which is how it would go for most of the Meisters in freaking Soul Eater. Like they have these things. You could say they're NEN beasts. You could say all the weapons are NEN beasts and they turn into weapons and they go back to humans and they have their own sentience. You could say that they're all conjurers in that aspect. So we're going to say that Black Star is a conjurer. I could also go specialist, but I'm saving specialist. We're going to do some specialist stuff here soon. I know I said that, but we'll get to it. Black Star is going to be a conjurer. Next, I would usually talk about what the name of the Hatsu is, but I'll figure that out at the end. Maybe I'll say it. Maybe you come up with it. Maybe I'll come up with something. I don't know. But I'm just going to tell you what the ability is. Like I said, I'm going to keep it short and sweet. You help me think of what conditions would be better. But I'm going to give you conditions. Don't worry about it as well. So, Black Star's Hatsu allows him to conjure any weapon he can imagine, but only after he's seen it once. I get it, guys. I get it. Very simple, not even crazy ability. But if you know my content, I make the ability better. I want the user, the wielder, to make the Hatsu special. Those are the best things, like Hisoka, Crollo, the people that make their abilities raw when they're not already raw. That's what I like to do. That shows like a good character. Black Star would be one of those characters. So yeah, he can conjure any weapon he can imagine, but only after you've seen it once. That little second part, only after you've seen it once, lets you know that he cannot just create any random ass weapon he can think of, like a super giant 80-foot sword. Like, he can't do that. Or flaming sword he saw. I mean, you could probably do some shit like that, but I don't know. We're not doing ridiculous weapons, real weapons that he's seen. And this is also heavily dependent on what Black Star views as a weapon. So that's important. If he views it as a weapon, he can conjure it and use it as a weapon. Simple as that. NEN, your Hatsu, is very much based on what you can imagine. If you can't imagine it, you're not going to be able to make it with NEN because you can't even think of it. Simple, obviously, that's obvious. But the important part about this is it could potentially allow Black Star to copy other conjuration abilities. If he sees it as a weapon, what's stopping him from copying Kurapika's chains? Obviously, he can't copy their function, but maybe we could add a condition where if Black Star learns your conditions, then he can perfectly replicate your ability, functionality, and all. Like, he'd be able to copy Kurapika's chains and do everything Kurapika does, because he copied the Hatsu one for one. Maybe we could do something like that because Black Star is a very instinctual type person and he would use Hatsu or NEN like that in general. So I think he could potentially copy Blinky if he knew that Blinky only sucks up non-living matter. What's stopping him from creating it? He imagined the weapon, he knows how it works, boom, he can create it. Which would be crazy if he can copy Hatsu like that. That'd be another copying, NEN ability, which would be insane. All right, so yeah, that's how it works. He conjures weapons that he's seen once. If he can imagine, he can copy it, or he can create it. So how does it work? All right, listen, there's a condition mixed into here. You'll get it. In order to activate this Hatsu, Black Star must first imagine his desired weapon and then physically act as if he's holding the weapon. That's the condition. Along with imagining it, he must act as if he's holding it. So if I want to go to swing a sword, or I want to conjure a sword, I must act like I'm already holding a sword. Or like if I'm holding a bat, I must act like I'm holding a bat. And it'll appear. Pretty simple. Still not complex at all. This is a very simple ability. Also, as you may have noticed, and you know, Izunami said it, you can't conjure an unbreakable sword. You can't conjure weapons that are beyond human comprehension, that just don't exist. It's not realistic. But you can add conditions to strengthen your weapons, like Kurapika adds conditions to the chains. Blinky with Shizuku, she adds conditions to the vacuum, saying like it can only suck up inorganic matter, which makes the suction stronger and just turns it from a normal vacuum to something that's already like just ridiculous. So he could do that, but I'm going to forego that. I don't want him making conditions on the weapons because he conjures so many. It's an infinite amount of however many weapons there are. If he sees it, he can copy it. I don't want him adding conditions and confusing himself. He may end up killing himself or removing his NEN altogether if he breaks one of the conditions or if he breaks one of the restrictions. So we're not going to do that. With that being said, you're like, what? Like this ability is not really good. Like it's not, because just conjuring weapons, the weapons themselves aren't special. They're just regular swords. Why don't you just go buy a sword and not waste your Hatsu on it? Listen to me here. I've always wanted to personally create a Hatsu that is 100% immune to the application of NEN, Gyo, which is focusing aura in your eyes that allows you to see aura, to see NEN. Once you gain access to NEN, you can now see NEN. But there's a technique, an advanced application called EATER that allows you to hide your NEN, hide your Hatsu. And then you need Gyo to see what they're hiding. So there's a way to hide it after it already is being hidden by, yeah. So you know what I'm saying? I want to get away from that because Gyo can help you and give you so much insight into your opponent. Like Hisoka, Gyo's particularly effective against him because he needs to stick you with bungee gum and use bungee gum. And if you can see it, if you're a really good fighter, you can kind of avoid it like Crollo did. But Crollo had to go to extreme measures to do that. I think that lets us know that Crollo was not stronger than Hisoka. Like I said, 2025, if you still think Crollo is stronger than Hisoka ever in the story, you gotta lay off the crack or whatever you're huffing, because that's insane. But yeah, Gyo's effective against stuff like that. It's effective against a lot of people's Hatsu. So I want a Hatsu that's immune to that. Also, I think NEN unequivocally being the best power system in all of anime, it's not missing something. There's just something I wanted to see more of that I saw in other anime. And I realized that other anime do it because their power systems aren't as good. They're not as complex. They're not as well thought out. So you focus on the basics of just wielding the power in general, wielding any type of power. It doesn't matter if it's NEN, ki, chakra, it doesn't matter. You can implement speed of technique or just how you use the power system, the speed, the control, all of that. And Hunter x Hunter, they don't really focus on like stuff like that, the speed of technique. I wanted to do something like that. So what I'm going to do for Black Star is add this small condition that Black Star only conjures his weapons at the moment of impact, which is it's able to do. And he's able to do this because of how fast he can activate Hatsu and deactivate Hatsu within whatever you want to say. We could say it's in the realm of Netero of 0.1 second or less than 1/10 of a second is what they said. So you could say he's somewhere in that realm, maybe not as fast as Netero, but anywhere even near that is ridiculous. So let's say Black Star can do it in 1/10 of a second. Just he can activate and deactivate his ability in 1/10 of a second, 0.1 second. So if you're fighting Black Star, you're like, okay, like, Gyo, nothing. You see nothing. Like, okay, what's he about to do? Just like a regular NEN battle. What's his Hatsu? I can't rush in. I might die. I don't know what his fucking Hatsu is. I can't just do that. He rushes you. You're like, oh, shoot, like, what do I do? And he goes to, like, he just gets up on you, and you're not seeing what he's doing. You're thinking he's going to punch you. He goes like that. Your fucking arm's gone. Or, like, and you're like, what? Like, I didn't see anything. At the split moment of him attacking, he conjured a katana, cut your arm off, deactivated it, and it was invisible to you the whole time because it was just so fast. And all he didn't do anything special. He just activated, deactivated his technique so fast. And not to mention, he adds the advanced application of NEN Shu. Because if they were just regular weapons, Aura could easily defend against it and block it. It can block bullets. So it can definitely block a blade. But you add Shu to it, it just significantly amplifies the blade. It's what Nobunaga does. He has swords, he adds Shu to it, and just cuts. He can cut through stuff. He can cut through even people using Aura to defend themselves. And Blackstar's so good at adding Shu as well as doing Hatsu at the same time, which is easy. Like just one simple application, Hatsu, and one advanced application, Shu, which is shrouding your weapon in Aura. He does those almost simultaneously, and he is just unstoppable in close range combat. There's nothing you can do. It's like an assassin technique. You don't see the weapons. It could be a bow and arrow for all you know. He cuts you. You're like, damn, like he cut me. Let me use Gyo. Did he have an invisible sword? Like that's kind of a weak technique. You conjure a sword and you add Een to it and make it invisible. All right, that's kind of weak, but you got me with a good surprise attack, but you're not going to get me again. You look over there. He's not holding anything. You're like, okay, like, so he's a conjurer. He'll conjure it again before he attacks. You're waiting for it. He gets into your blind spot, fires off a bow and arrow. He like makes the hand sign for a bow and arrow, makes a bow and arrow, fires the arrow. He has to hold the technique a little longer because the arrow has to travel, but he's using Een. You were expecting a sword. You know he's far away. You're like, okay, so he's not going to hit me. Boom, you get hit in the back of the arrow. You're like, bro, and nothing's there because he deactivates it as soon as it hits you. And you're like, but the damage is still done. He's like, you're like, what? What hit me? That felt like a shot. That wasn't a slash. Like I thought he had a sword. And it messes with your mind. And it could be any weapon you think of, gun, sickle and chain, scythe, pole axe. It could be any weapon he's seen, and you're getting just absolutely decimated because his base stats are already good with the speed and power. That's how Blackstar is. He's really fast. He's really strong in his base form. If you give him Aura, he's gonna just use that to amplify himself even more. He'll probably be like a Toji-esque type thing where he's like faster and stronger than most people in the series already. And if you gave him Aura on top of that, obviously you can't do that in JJK because him not having it is what makes him strong in the first place. But with NEN, that's not the case. You'll die if you don't have it in the first place. So he'll just use straight up close range combat, and it's very assassin-like. You never see what weapons. There's no evidence left. All you see is the damage. There's no trace of anything. You can't tell what happened. Very assassin-like, which is fitting for Blackstar. And now I don't know if Blackstar would be able to come up with something like this. But you can't say that it's not cold already. This shit's hard. Think about it. Just as soon as he's boxing with you, oh, y'all are fighting, and then invisible slash. You're like, bro, what just happened? Or he could hit you several times, slash down, sickle across the gut, knife back across, and it just happened and like that. It was invisible to you, but he activated, deactivated it. That shit took 0.3 seconds because he's able to activate one use in 0.1 seconds. So if he just hits you back to back, 0.3 of a second, you've been fatally wounded, if not killed. And he can switch weapons and holds. Whatever he's imagining is what it is. All he has to do is form his hand to hold it. And you can use the same form to conjure different weapons. If I'm pretend like I'm holding a sword, this can be a sword. This can also be a knife. This can also be a sickle. This can also be a baseball bat. Like that's the part of the mind. Him imagining is what gives it that creative touch that just is really hard to defend against. And it's all based on not the ability to conjure weapons, but the speed of activation of technique. Insane. I think this is a perfect fit for Blackstar. You could add hella conditions to this to make it even crazier. So I'll let y'all do that if you want to, but I like it in its simplistic form. But I would like to hear the crazy things y'all could come up with to make the ability better. He doesn't really need anything else. Like, this is already busted. Nobody in the verse will be able to hang with him hand to hand. Maybe Hisoka. Obviously, Netero could overwhelm him as well. He's just faster than Blackstar. Like, if he was in Hunter x Hunter, Netero's the peak. Blackstar wouldn't be above Netero. So Netero has range to his shit. Always. He has range and close range. So, yeah, he won't be able to beat that. But he'll be up there, and not really many people can mess with that. So let me know your thoughts. I don't know the name of this Hatsu, Black Star, Speed Star, Movie Star, Lakers in 5. Nah, I don't know. Flash Star, Creation Star, Flash Star. I don't know. Come up with a name for this Hatsu. Y'all know how Black Star is if you've read Soul Eater or watched Soul Eater. But yeah, that's the video, guys. Leave a like, comment, subscribe, and as always, I will catch you in the next one, guys. Peace. 君の気持ちを大事にしなかった私の頭